And hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Vibes number 2. And we're just allowing each one of us, each one to come into this space to relax, to start feeling the presence. Feel the safe space that we're creating in this most wonderful, most sacred space in our circle and our round table. Allow yourself just to be, for anything to arise. And yes, there's still people logging in. Welcome, each one, whether you're watching this now or later. My name is Alexis Sersha, and welcome to Soul Vibes number 2, episode 2, where we explore in a very perhaps basic is not the right word, but experiential way. We're experiencing presence of soul in very experiential and basic way. Basic meaning not grade 1 or level 1, but in those terms that are everyday, in those terms that are familiar to us, that become familiar as we are entering, as we are allowing ourselves this deeper connection with ourselves. And I will repeat that when I speak about soul and the human, it's from the basic understanding that from the basis that you are soul, each one of us is soul, each one of us is human, each one of us is the entity having experience within the physical realm, within this physical realm that is yet challenging and yet so rewarding and satisfying. We are in October 2022. Last couple of months have been very full on. It's like we just have integration and upgrade and integration and upgrade without any spaces in between, it seems. We don't have that time to just relax, to get used to the new level that we've allowed ourselves to experience. And so for some, it has been a bit overwhelming, and it is just important to keep coming back to self, into this safe space, and to create space of that peace and calm amidst all that is happening within you, around you, and in the world. And so come to yourself, come into your body, allow yourself you to be present with yourself, and allow yourself for anything to arise as it will. We're not trying to change anything. We're just flowing and floating. And then allow yourself to feel that presence of your soul self. And allow yourself the awareness of the vastness of who you are, of those vast spaces. Feel them. It's safe. You're not going to fall. It's not a precipice where you fall down, but you fall into the embrace of all of who you are. Feel that presence of vastness, that magnificence, that gloriousness that you haven't allowed yourself perhaps to feel. For perhaps your mind is saying, no, but you're not glorious, you're not vast. It can't be you, for surely this is not who you are. You are but a small human being living a small life. This is the mind that will try to keep you within the confines of a certain space. And yet you no longer listen to the mind. And for some, the mind is no longer saying that, because it knows that you are free, that you are vast, that you are magnificent, and it knows that those spaces are safe to experience. For whatever you're experiencing during the day, whether it is because of what you see is happening around you, to your loved ones, to yourself, or whatever is arising with you, you have the ability to feel also this amazing presence, this vastness, this space, this safety, this peace, this timelessness. Feel as I'm talking, as I'm saying these words, timeless. Touch that within you. Feel it. Timeless. Vast. Immense. For this is the realm of your soul. And regardless of what it is that you're experiencing, you can also at the same time touch this, be in this space. And when you are in this space, or you're touching it as much as you're allowing yourself, depending on what's going on with you, this is where your answers are. This is where that assurance is, that all is well, that all is safe, that all is incredible, that you are timeless, that you are forever. Whatever you are experiencing, you can remember this space, the feeling of this peace, the feeling of this acceptance, the feeling of how everything is right with you, that all your inclinations, all your feelings, everything that arises with you, within you, is right. That you have a right to feel those things, that it is beneficial to you as a whole to feel those things, to experience them. And how different it is when you feel like that about yourself, when you give yourself permission to feel like this, how it changes everything, even though we're not trying to change anything at all. And so feel this presence that was always with you, but you didn't really allow the perception, the knowingness that this is your soul. And for some of you, you are used to this presence. For some of you, you're just you're just experiencing these things for the first time, and you're realizing, that's that beautiful, incredible, divine aha moment when you realize, so that's what that is. Yes, it always was here. It was this immensely beautiful feeling, this nurturing, this nurturance, is this what I wished that I could feel from others? It is why I felt that others have betrayed me, that they have let me down. My parents, my partners, my spouses, my boyfriends, girlfriends, they've let me down, my friends. I felt they have let me down because I know this perfection of this feeling of such incredible love, of such incredible nurturance. And yet I know this feeling so well, and yet I was expecting this to come from outside. I was expecting others to give me that feeling, for I did not realize that this feeling is always within me. And when I own it, and when I be it, then I can allow myself to fall deeper inside of me and experience that incredible ecstasy of being in this way, of falling inside of myself. For then I feel myself being caught by my soul in this incredible embrace. And so for some, the mind is saying, so how can this help? How can this change my daily life? Well, feel this, experience this, and see what happens. it is incredibly relevant, especially in these times. For if you have this power, this incredible power to feel this kind of spaces, while all the turmoil that is going on in the world, how incredibly powerful are you, immense, timeless, vast, these words that are no longer words, but are feelings, our experiences, our emotions. Feel the emotions as they flow through you, freely, unencumbered by blockages, unencumbered, in acceptance of everything that arises. For you know that everything that arises is you, and everything that arises is right and perfect. And you are meant to feel these things. For you are meant to dive into certain experiences. You are meant to have certain attributes. For these are the gifts of your soul. And sometimes they do feel like they are but a curse. But feel, see how anything that you experience in your life is a gift. If you don't feel it, bring something up that you feel that you're having challenges with. Bring it up, feel it. Feel that part. Welcome it. Welcome what it feels, how it feels restrictive. You can feel how for some it bears fear. Perhaps anger, all sorts of things that come with it. Feel it. Frustration. Or it feels like you've been dealing with this particular thing for years and years and years, and it keeps coming up. Feel its restriction, feel its limitation, feel its solid walls within you right now. Yes, you are tentative because you feel if you allow yourself to become really aware of this part, that it will engross you, that it will take over, that it will make you, squash you into a limited ball, into a limited box, into a tiny thing. And yet, when you accept it, it loses its power. Not only that, feel and ask for a resolution. Ask for communication and feel and be present right now. Feel it and understand its song. Understand what it's saying to you. Understand its language in feelings. And know that everything that you experience, you yourself have created, whether before this lifetime, whether within, it matters not, those details matter not, but know and own that you have created all the situations, including this, that is keeping you frustrated. And feel how it's changing. Feel how the sense of it change. How it's no longer so hard. How it's no longer perhaps so big. How it's no longer so scary. And you allow it to form. You allow it to reform, rather. To start moving, to be fluid. And you feel how it's moving, how it's changing its nature. For you are allowing the presence of your soul to play with you within that particular issue, within that particular constriction. And once the presence of your soul is infused, then this issue cannot but become fluid and flowing and dynamic and communicative. And your friend, it's actually your friend, for it is in you, with you, in you, as an experience that you are going through. And within that, there is wisdom. And within that, there is knowledge and knowingness. How you resolve this situation. And yes, some of these situations ask you for courage. They ask you to step forward, to step in your power, to step in yourself, to be yourself, to speak on behalf of yourself, to stand for yourself, to do things for yourself, perhaps to reveal yourself to others. And that can be scary, for this is the true self. And so see how many gifts this thing that you once were pushing away has for you. And this is the nature and what also it demands of you. And this is the nature of the soulful life. This is the nature of vibing with your soul. It always is like this, in many different nuances and tastes and flavors and scents. And yet it always asks of you, will you hear? Will you understand? Will you accept? Will you love? Will you let yourself be loved? Will you be vulnerable? Will you step forward? Will you dance with me? Will you play in courage? A warrior that you are in a new way, with everything within you. And so it always demands and asks that you come back to yourself, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what you're hearing, regardless of your friends, regardless of the groups you're in, regardless of what other people are doing at different corners of the world, regardless of all these different things you perhaps read and are inspired by and want to participate in, and perhaps you can't for whatever reason. You always, always, always need to come back to yourself, come back to your life, come back to the things that are within you that grow and that spontaneously arise, things that have been with you since the day you were born. This is you, the brilliant, divine you, having a physical experience. And you keep coming back to self. And so come back to self now. Feel what that feels like. Yes, there may be some things you perhaps have not yet accepted, and that's okay. You can be with them. You can be with anything in this presence of who you are. For being in the presence of you as presence, as present in your moment, you are with your past, you are with your future. Present, now. And it's okay if you don't like some things that you feel that come knocking on your door when you're this present. But there always is activity around within this now moment. It's incredibly dynamic. It is incredibly full of everything. It is incredibly peaceful also, because that too is in that present moment. And if you want to escape this being in your own presence, or perhaps you haven't accepted all of yourself, and that's okay. It's an ongoing experience. You just are okay with anything that arises. And feel and hear and understand. Allow yourself to be. And now allow yourself in this now moment to really feel your soul. For me, Alexis, it often comes even more now. It's even more as human. My soul, being walking this earth, has kind of humanized before. Initially it was very, very different. To the human, it felt intimidating. Of course, it was huge. It felt, no, this can't be me. It also felt very alien. It often feels very alien, not like from another planet, but very, very different to human, for it is not human. It is not you that is part of oneself that I identify as human. I am human, but the soul is very, very different than what I knew the human was. Firstly, it is timeless. It exists in multi-dimensions. It doesn't know fear. It doesn't know anger. It doesn't know so many things. And yet it wants to play in this reality. It wants to be conscious. It wants to be present. And so the human always keeps changing in order to do this beautiful dance back and forth with the soul. And the soul, to me, is so intimate, is so incredibly, there are no words for it really. I go into poetry, go into song, dance, perhaps sometimes pictures and imagery, the feeling to actually portray that incredible feeling as to what it feels like, this presence of soul. And for me, the human, it is asking of me continually to be even more vulnerable, to be even more open, to give into it, to surrender, to allow it to touch all the inner parts of me, meaning all of those things that I used to be perhaps ashamed of, I pushed away, I didn't like about myself, and all of those kind of very intense feelings, the rejection of self, that was the basis of a majority of human experience, the rejection of self. And the whole society is then based on, it supports the rejection of self, because then people continually then consume and consume and consume and are followers of other others' ideas, or mass consciousness ideas of things, how they should be, what they should think, what they should do, how they should feel. And as I'm speaking this, this is quite obvious, but this is such a prevalent way of being that sometimes it is so insidious, or it's very, every part of yourself as a human is consumed in this kind of idea to kind of go out here. You're out here. And this is kind of also like, it's part of those, one day I will do this, or for example, to do with masculine and feminine. So for example, there is an image of a masculine that we have, this perfect image, and we put it out there. There is an image of perfect feminine, and we put it out there. And yet this ownership means that you bring it inside your body, what it feels like inside your body, but it's actually, it's different kind of space, but it feels like it's inside your body, and you feel like, wow, this is, for example, let's say if I see someone and I admire them and I admire certain qualities about them, then I realize, wow, this feeling that these qualities give me are actually my feeling. And then what happens is that all of a sudden from here, this feeling all of a sudden, as I own it, is inside of me. And sometimes there is almost like this seduction of wanting it to be out there, because then I engage my mind to think about it, because the mind is very good at projecting things outside of myself, what it feels like outside of myself. And I still can use it to think about this, or perhaps to desire it, or perhaps to be jealous about it, of what another person has. But when I realize that that feeling of that quality is actually my feeling, I feel it. And then the awareness of that feeling goes to where that feeling actually is, which is inside of me. And that's when I realize that all is my energy. All that I'm creating and feeling and experiencing is my energy. And that's how I own everything. But it's almost like this, there is this spatial difference. It's, as I said, these things can be challenging to explain with words, but I ask that you feel, because each one of you, each one of us has had this experience from projecting something outside, and then what it feels like in that aha moment when I actually own it, and it moves, this awareness, the focus moves onto the inside of me. And then if I'm okay with owning that, then I can own that feeling. And I'm thinking, and then I own, wow, I am this feminine. And this feminine is all that I've admired, all that I've felt, let's say as a child, as a teenager, when, let's say, the sexuality is waking up. And even without, like, the feminine and masculine don't have to be sexual. They're not always sexual, but let's say we start becoming very aware in those, when we're in puberty, we start becoming very aware of this masculine, feminine dance. And the same goes for the masculine as well. So if, let's say, as a woman, I fall in love with a male and I admire certain attributes of that guy, of that person, I actually then can own that and realize, wow, what I actually think this person has is actually what I am creating on the inside. This feeling of it is on the inside. And when I own this, then I can realize all of these things that I used to project on the outside are actually mine. Then I can own those wonderful, incredible feelings of feminine. And I can own those wonderful, incredible feelings of masculine. And it doesn't mean that I can't partner with another. Actually, I can partner in a much more wholesome way. It just means that I'm starting to own who I really am. And these kind of things only can happen with a certain percentage of the presence of your soul. And that is why we started, and we almost always start with feeling that vastness, the majesty, the grandness. Because it is in those kind of spaces when you allow yourself to expand in this way as a human within yourself, is that you can then allow the presence of your soul to be there, for it is grand. It is grand. And the more you squeeze, for example, let's say if you have the world events, maybe you've watched news and all of a sudden you feel yourself tight, and especially in solar plexus you feel yourself scared, and whether the fear is yours or others, it matters not. You have owned that fear. If it's in your solar plexus, you have owned that fear. You have identified with it completely. And so it constricts and constricts, and all of a sudden you realize, wow, I can really start breathing into it. And all of you have had these experiences with breathing, when you can breathe yourself into this expansion, and you go through all of those levels and layers of fear, where it doesn't feel like you should expand because it doesn't feel safe, and then it won't let you. That's how the fear works. It keeps you constricted in this way. It doesn't feel like you should, or you're not allowed to, and then all of a sudden one day you just say, oh, what the heck, and you just go allow yourself through that barrier. And once you have this conscious experience once, you can then becomes much, much easier. And this is very similar to all of the different spaces within myself, is how I can expand, and how I can walk through the walls and melt those walls and the limitations of who I thought I was as a human. And so to keep that percentage of the soul particles, or the soul vibe, or the soul sense, scent, to permeate me through the whole me. And it does, this presence does kind of like breathe. It doesn't, it comes and goes and comes and goes in different percentages. It's very, very natural to be like this. But it is always, always present. It does change location at times when there's a big shift, as from the human perspective. I know where to go. Like, let's say I want to sit down or lie down and like, right, I'm going to radiate, feel my soul and that radiance. And I know where to go inside of me to kickstart that, okay, radiance happen, allow, and then I allow, and it just boom, blows up. Not blows up, but it becomes more powerful. The radiance just starts radiating with greater intensity. And then when the shifts happen, sometimes with that space where I go inside moves and changes. And there have been times where, throughout the last decade, there've been maybe sometimes a month even where I couldn't find it again. And that's just normal, because it's always there, but there are shifts and changes, and these dimensions change as to where I go and what I do and how I do within myself, things within myself. And this again is coming back to that importance that unless I keep coming back to myself and do it myself, then it doesn't matter how many things I participate in on the outside with others, unless I actually am taking that time and experiencing this, then I don't get any better. You see, then I just know the theory of things, but not the real experience. You see, I have to experience that bliss, that presence. I have to get intimately familiar with how I work on the inside. For this is how you are a conscious creator, because you need to be very, very familiar, intimately familiar with how you work on the inside, because it's your inside that creates your world around you. And these two can sort of sound like a theory until you actually experience, and you can experience even, for example, how some people don't really know certain things, how it works. For example, let's say they will say, wow, there is a spying going on, because as soon as I think of something, and then all of a sudden it turns up on Facebook, so can Facebook read mind? No. It's actually that you're creating the Facebook so as you're thinking about it. So it's not really that conspiracy spy thing, but it's as you are thinking and creating and fantasizing, then all of a sudden all these things happen. And this happens now much, much quicker than what it used to happen. Like, for example, just this week, for me, I dance a lot, just with myself, for myself. I dance a lot. Every day I dance. And I kind of just get all these moves, and not that I can do them, but I have this feeling of these incredible moves. And sometimes dancing with another, with the imagery and all sorts of things. because this is the time to fantasize in this kind of real way, because you are just allowing yourself to go through all these different spaces and dimensions of self. So back to this. And then I imagine certain things, certain moves and dance, whatever. And then all of a sudden I find them, boom, the next day, even the same day. You know, there's people actually then doing this. And so was it that, you know, media read my mind? No, it is that automatic, even in these kind of things, is that quick creation and a reflection back of the reality that I'm creating. So that dance of consciousness and energy, it will be more and more and quicker and instant, more and more instant. And that's why it is really important to experience yourself in that. And you know that whatever is happening, you perhaps feeling this big fear, whether it's yours, whether it's mass consciousness, it is inside of you. And at the same time, to remember to feel that vastness, the presence of the soul. Because if you are feeling that presence of the soul, then you're not then, even though you may be feeling fear, you are not then creating fear, you see. But if you forgot, if you're unconscious of this presence, you may quickly create some kind of fearful event, you see. So when with the presence, even when you're feeling perhaps uncomfortable feelings and emotions and whatever have you, just because you're allowing yourself, and because you're allowing yourself this awareness of who you really are, the presence of your soul, you're vibing with your soul, then you've underneath it all, you still feel incredibly good. You still feel this well-being. I mean, sometimes I find myself, you know, because we are then so sensitive to things, and I can feel things happening in the mass consciousness, and it hits me this really full-on serious, perhaps sadness, perhaps grief, perhaps all sorts of things hit me, and I know they're not mine, and I can feel them deeply, and all of a sudden I can look in a mirror, and all of a sudden I look like I'm grieving or something, but underneath that I still feel that incredible sense of well-being, because there is that knowingness that firstly it's not mine, that I don't own it in the same way. I know that it's not mine, basically, but I do know also that it is now inside of me, and I do need to release it and let it go. But it doesn't touch my the basis. So we're going back to that basics. So what I mean with that basics, I don't mean the base as in level 1 kind of thing, but underneath there is this basic thing that you always have access to. But it does often, not always, you know, sometimes these kind of things, this incredible beauty arises spontaneously. And then the next moment, I have to remember to feel, consciously remember to feel that presence in whatever way that I can at that time, you see, because this level of intensity is different at different times. And so, yeah, sometimes then I have to consciously remind myself. And there was a time where, you know, before that tip, where I became to the hump, to the tipping point, meaning that, you know, it felt like it was going up the hill, that I had to keep reminding myself, oh, that's right, I have to feel myself, I have to feel myself. Then the tipping point came where it actually happens more spontaneously more often, then I have to actually consciously remind myself and allow that space to become aware to me. So that's probably the most correct expression. I allow that space to become aware to me, to become known to me, because it can become stranger to me very quickly, and then I can forget about it until the next time, and then I remember, and then it becomes familiar again, and then I realize how much I missed it. And within that space, the presence of my soul has so individualized now, so in some ways humanized, so that it has features. It knows how to communicate more in a human way, or perhaps it is that my human self has changed to such degree. It really matters not. It just what it means is that the understanding, this incredible, beautiful blending and intimacy, and just being in that presence and feeling the presence of soul, it is just so incredibly delicious. It's like, you know, what I used to watch in some movies, these grand love stories where, or like when you fall in love with someone and you just want to be with them, just present. You don't have to look at them, just feel them and smell them and perhaps touch them and whatever. Is that kind of feeling, but even more, and even more deeper feelings, emotions. It is very, very enjoyable. So, and it is very mesmerizing, always in a new way. It's never boring, this presence of my soul that individualizes itself, that kind of steps from that void, and all of a sudden it's touchable to me as a human. Not always, because sometimes it's okay just to feel this great ocean. It keeps changing. And as a human, I've just had to become really okay with this not no to be okay with whatever happens, and let go of that. Oh, am I crazy, or has this really happened? That disbelief, that distrust. It just to trust that yes, I can be this clear, and I can feel this good, and I can have this incredible presence within me. And at times also as a human, I can feel as that. I can own that whole thing as well. So that, but more often than not, for me, it feels that I still interact as a human and as the soul, and have this interaction and conversation and banter and jokes, and when the times are intense, very much aggro as well, but now as a human self, I know that even that shall pass, and that the soul self wants my true face. And this is just so enjoyable to experience, when someone, something, your soul wants your true face, does not want the mask, does not want you to pretend that I can feel anything that I feel, and it's okay. Doesn't matter how foul that feeling is or emotion is. When there's integration, or all of these emotions from mass consciousness, it doesn't matter, because it wants to see you as truth, as who you are in that moment. And that, again, it is just such an ecstatic feeling to experience that, not as a theory, because as I'm talking, it's a theory, but to actually feel that and experience that. And it is so mesmerizing, this whole relationship, that this is how then, over the years and the months that pass, if I spend time within this space, interacting in such a way, that then those other things really fall away. Like whatever, people come and they have addictions and all sorts, and and all sorts of things. And when one is a separated human being, you always have that, because you need that energy from somewhere. So it's not something to be ashamed about or anything, but it's not that as I'm going through these things, it's not about then working on addiction, for example. It is allowing this presence, and is allowing this healthy interaction, inner interaction, and then slowly over time, or maybe quickly for some, this becomes so real and so much more important, so that that desire for so-called addiction goes away, because it becomes unnecessary. You see, so it's not that I have to beat myself or battle all these things that I think are wrong with me or about me. Not at all. It is that I just keep coming back. And the thing is that even if, you know, you fail or whatever, you know then that it's okay. You just keep coming back, and you keep coming back until this self-love just makes all these other things completely meaningless and empty. And there comes a day when you realize, wow, I don't even feel like doing that anymore. You see, so you didn't put that as number one, or an issue. Wasn't an issue really. The issue really is always this coming back to self, coming back to self, coming back and becoming familiar and intimate and loving and trusting and self-growing and expanding in this space of self. And then everything else resolves itself. And whether it is because for some other things, it may be that when you are in this space, you get inspirations, you get ideas, you get all sorts of things in this space. And you then become, of course, aware of all of the different potentials. And then you choose all these different things, and then you just go and do them. And some things that you're involved with, many actually don't work. In a sense of, let's say, you know, like, for example, Alexis, I do a lot of creative things, and I put out a lot of things, and you know, some of the things are not attractive to others and they don't work. And I'm thinking, well, maybe people will want this one, perhaps participate. And because, you know, there is a feeling, because it came from that incredible space, it must work. Meaning, as in, like, in a worldly way, there has to be success from it. But it's not true. Very often it's just for the experience, and then you realize, well, others perhaps don't find it attractive, and I'll let it go, you see. But initially, my mind's idea was that everything has to fit in that kind of worldly, you know, or success, or worldly ideas of what is good, or what is good and what is worthy of experiencing or pursuing or doing. And so there is this continual change, the continual dynamism, dynamic way of being, this dynamic way of life. And they all just really come from these very simple and basic things, you know, that this baseline, this foundation is now solidly on my relationship with soul, my relationship with presence. And then we vibe like that, you know, we dance in this world. We play, we joke, we laugh, we live, we experience, we flop, we fail, we go back to the drawing board very often. We do all sorts of imaginable things, you know, in that space. And so, and I know that most of you know this already, and yet it keeps and we have to keep remembering to keep coming back to what is real, to what is your truth, to what is you. Keep coming back to self-love, to self-acceptance, to self-validation, to validate who you are, to being your own boss on anything. You see, there is very seductive way to give away this self-empowerment, because each one of us so unique. Like how we do things or what we do is very different with each and every being. And so what works for one, or perhaps, even let's say if they are an ascended master or whatever, and they may have done lots of things and they may advise, or maybe I advise something, but it doesn't mean that this is how you each individual should do. It's always has to go through through your own prism as in like a pyramid. That's what I'm not prison as in locking up, but prism, through your own light, through your own self-validation or self-authority. Is this me or is this not me? Because we are unique, very often isn't. Or you're in a different space than the rest of you, perhaps even close friends, other group. You always have to realize, wow, go through that. If something doesn't resonate, doesn't matter who says it, it doesn't resonate with you. And if something, perhaps you've done something 5 years ago and others are doing now, but it doesn't always mean that, oh, you're ahead of others. It just, because this journey is not, like a line. It's not one step, then there's this step. Some things are like that, but more often we are multidimensional. Each one of us is multidimensional, and so people experience different things at different times. It's not like a linear line. And it's not like, okay, so I've experienced this 10 years ago and you're experiencing it now. So that means that, oh, I'm just so evolved and you're not. That's not true at all. It just means that different people, or each one of us is multidimensional. And what was important at one time for me, perhaps for someone else, it's important right now. You see, so, and it means nothing. So that's where those ideas of better than, or more evolved, or more special, or more, they start making no more sense, and even though they can feel good, like I can feel good, I can feel special for no reason at all. Let's try it right now. You can feel special. This feeling of it feels good. So feel it. Do we have to do anything for it? No, we don't have to do anything for it except for choosing it and feeling it. Because we are timeless, we're multidimensional. We just choose it and we feel it. And it's a goddamn good feeling. So just let's feel it now. You see, so there's nothing we have to do to earn any of these feelings anymore. There's nothing, not anymore. We never really did, but before we thought we had to. You see, there was this cause on a linear line. There is a cause and effect. I do something and then this happens. When you're multidimensional, it's a buffet table. All already exists. So you can play the cause and effect, but you don't need to. For if you are creating it all right now, you also give it a meaning right now. You can carry on the meaning you had given it before, and that's what it feels like to then create a linear line, because you keep carrying on the same meanings, the same feelings, the same experiences, and then they feel as if they're building on each other, but they're not really. It's just what you're choosing all the time in that now moment. And that's what then builds a linear line. And now we're, with this presence of consciousness, we're realizing that we are actually multidimensional. It's all in the now moment. And so the whole perspective is changing. And sometimes it's really lucky, really, that we do still use time, because some of these insights are huge, and to what they actually mean when you change your perspective in such a huge, major way as to coming from a linear into the multidimensional. It's huge, you know, and the ramifications of that, we're just starting to really touch upon these things. And so the main thing is really just to keep coming back to self, the intimacy with yourself, being your own authority. You're not right or wrong. Whatever you feel is right. Whatever you experience is right. And there is no one else that can tell you or has the authority unless you give them that authority. Okay, I give you this ability for you to decide where I'm at, what I'm experiencing, you see? So then someone else is telling you. This is a huge, big thing within the mass consciousness, is this, like at the beginning we talked about this, giving that out, putting it out here. And so we are taking that authority in, owning that authority, that if you feel something or experience something, you give it meaning. Whatever it means to you, it's your truth. And if you say so, it is. And this, we can do this now because we have enough of the percentage of the soul infusion, of the soul presence, of being aware of the soul. Because before, when a person is still in the mind would then be saying and taking that authority, and that means that you would still be in that little box of the mind, you see. So feel the difference. Feel the difference when it's your mind taking that authority and saying, see, when your mind is doing these things, it can look crazy, you know, and then you can say, well, this person has mental health issues, and they truly do, because they're trying to do those kind of decisions. They're trying to have that kind of authority from the space of the mind, and it's the mind. But when you allow this infusion of the soul presence, then it becomes real and truthful. Then there is that real feeling of authority. And for those that haven't experienced that, choose it and decide it, and allow yourself then to experience that in a very clear way. Give yourself that experience, and it can be through dreams. It can be you half wake up in the middle of the night and you have certain experience with that. Ask yourself and then receive it. And then be clear about it, because then you can build on this clarity for yourself, within yourself, on how all these things work. And that's the whole vibing with soul that we wanted to discuss and experience with you today. And so we would like to, well, I, Alexis, and my team, if you feel the presence of Michael, Saint Germain, also Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, have all been with you, with us in our circle today. I haven't invited them. They invite themselves. And so, on this note, I would like to say a big thank you to each and every one for just this incredible journey that we're on. And thank you for participating. And I will make this video available as soon as I can. We'll send you the link. And thank you for being who you are. And thank you for your courage, for exploring these depths of yourself, for exploring these realms of yourself, for allowing yourself to experience this incredible beauty, this incredible deliciousness of who you are. And so we keep vibing with our soul, as our soul. Until next time, thank you.